Hi, Misha here, and relatively recently did a video looking at the PPK series Classic Walthers, and I do like the Carl Walther brand for its classic guns. However, I also really do like their modern stuff. And this gun here is exactly why, or at least the idea behind it. The good old PPS. And I was a very early purchaser of this gun. In fact, I was pretty excited about it coming out back in the day. Why is that? And why was this a hidden gem? And why did this kick off really an entire series of concealed carry pistols? Lots of innovations, maybe a few detractions. But also it didn't sell particularly well because maybe it was a little early to market. Sometimes you can be late, sometimes you're early, sometimes, you're right on time. When everyone loves the PPK. But as always, if you could, please do like, share, and subscribe. Like to help support us. You know the dealio. Check out Patreon. With no further ado, let's talk about the PPS Police Pistol Slim. This might look like any old carry gun today. And even a little weird on the ergonomics. But that's because this came out before all the carry guns. This predated the Smith & Wesson Shield by 5 years. It predated various Glock offerings for even more than that. This kicked it off. Walther had an idea here. And it really was meant to be a spiritual replacement for the PPK. But whereas those fired 7.65 or 9mm Kurz, 380, and were just a straight blowback gun, this was based on Walther's successful in some parts of the world P99. See, now Walther was privately family owned up through the P88 and then got sold off to basically Umric. And in 94, they started developing what would become the P99. They're essentially like Glock 19 size gun. First showed off in 96. They started to hit the market in 97, 98. Then they worked on a Generation 2, which was revealed in 2004, which had some ergonomic updates and what have you. They also revealed the P99 Compact in 2004. And that was analogous to like a Glock 26. So it had a 3.5-inch barrel, short grip, about 4.5 inches tall, and a 10 round or 11 round, depending on the caliber, capacity. P99. But what they really wanted to do was replace the older gun. So even before those officially hit the market, in 2003, they started working on this guy here. And it's credited with the lead designer of Stefan Eit in Germany. Although it was obviously a team effort. And Horst Wesp, who had worked on the P99 and Glock before that, obviously his influences were felt because this is based on that gun. And it was first shown off at trade shows in 2007 and was available for purchase in America by the end of that year. I remember they started to hit stores November, December of that year. And just coincidentally, I had been in Ulm, Germany that summer, August, September. So was pretty hyped for this gun's release. But why is that? As with any carry gun, the specs tell the story. Whereas the P99 Compact had a 3.5-inch barrel, the barrel here is 3.2 inches, giving an overall length of about 6.3, meaning that, the Compact would have been roughly 6.5, and the full-size P99 was 7.1, so almost an inch shorter. Also, quite a bit slimmer. It's even in the name, Police Pistol Slim. Most of this gun is an inch wide. Although, when you count the slide stop control, it flares out to about 1.1 inches. That's really about the only thing. And weight is around 19 to 20 ounces, depending on exact configuration. We have metal 3-dot sights. They are interchangeable and adjustable. We have a 1-slot pick rail under the barrel, which was pretty innovative, especially for a carry gun when these were released in 2007. We have the European-style magazine release. It's a little different than the P99s because it's actually one piece on the bottom here as opposed to two separate levers. It's a little bit longer but very compact. We have the dingus on the trigger as a safety. Actually very good for a carry gun. This uses a modified version of the quick action trigger, a partially cocked trigger system from the P99. There's a striker indicator that protrudes at the back as you pull the trigger. It's about a 6-pound pull, so not bad, frankly. And the reset is pretty good, too. I'm not going to say this is a fantastic trigger, but as I've said in previous videos, as when we covered the CCP, I don't want a super light target trigger in a carry gun. Rear slide serrations, relatively large. We have this kind of rib on the top. No front serrations, although the slide is scalloped to save on weight. Plus it just looks good. We have some light texturing on the front of the grip, but it is very straight. We have pretty gentle finger grooves and texturing here. And we have texturing with a bit of a swell in the back strap. No manual safety. This one is in 9x19 Parabellum. They also offered a 40 Smith & Wesson version because beginning around 1999, Smith & Wesson took over importation of Walthers from Inner Arms, which they would continue through about 2012. But going to a full power cartridge in a gun this small and light, guys, that was a big deal in 2007. Most of your very small guns were 380 or even 32 still. In fact, there were only a couple of companies offering a 9x19 as a carry gun. Yeah, there was a Glock 26, but it was wider because it had the double stack mag. Kel-Tec also had a couple of offerings. There was their P11. And so while they might have been this tall and this long, they were not this slim. And of course, you still get a gun made in Ulm, Germany, and there's quality to be said for that. The slide is Tenerifer coated, a quite famous metal finish. And your barrel has traditional Lansing grooves rifling. A couple of its most innovative features actually have to do with the grip here. In it right now, we have the 6-round magazine. Now, they were able to make this such a slim pistol because of the metal mag versus polymer. It's a true single stack. And with this flush fit mag in, we're about 4.4 inches tall. This is the conceal carry mag. PPS M2 6-shot mag. It's 124 grain. Held open. But from the beginning, they offered a +1 mag. Giving it an overall height of about 4.9 inches. And giving an area to put your pinky on. So a more sure grip, while remaining more compact than a full-size gun. Now with the 7-shot. And also a +2 mag, giving it a grip the same size as the P99 or like a Glock 19, and it's about 5.3 inches tall. Now the full 8. But it's still very flat. And I love how these mags mate up with the existing grip so well, including the back. And this gives you not just a thumb rest and a finger or pinky rest here, but even kind of an over travel stop, so for larger hands. And easily switch back to the little mag if and you need it. Now, some guns would ship with all 3, some would ship with all 2, and you could just buy more from the factory. From what I recall, most of them had the 6 and 7, and the 8 was an optional edition. Although, they did have what they call the first edition pistol, and I believe those came with all 3. And really no detractions. However, the other grip feature was less well received. Something we take for granted today are interchangeable back straps. All your polymer pistols have them. But did you know they started off with the Walther P99? Yeah, they did. And those are actually held in with a roll pin. Just drive it out with a tool, replace your back strap. But for this gun, they went to a new system. Quick safe. If you look at the base of the grip, there's a little tab here, and you can pull it off. And as you saw, your trigger, it's now, it's dead. That's just the dingus holding it. You can't cock it. It's basically a decocker built in. That's why these magazines have this little piece back there to kind of cover this up. This is the small size. The pistols came with a large here. And so doubling as your back strap and safety feature, you just switch it back in. Now you have a larger back strap and a working gun. Kind of a magazine disconnect safety, but external. And I get what they were going for here. These were originally marketed, notice how that sticks out more versus the slim one, more for plainclothes police, off-duty guns, because the concealed carry market was pretty small in 2007. So these are still more or less marketed towards official use. But there was a kind of a concern with this. You're disabling your gun here. You have a mechanism for your striker. What if something broke? This tab in here, maybe something in the gun. That was a major concern and even criticism when these were released. Now, the truth is, in all the years, I cannot recall the system breaking. Maybe it has, but it seems to have proven to be durable enough. Notice how it's kind of a flush match up here. That's why I like the small one. Back in the early 21st century, Walther was making good guns. But for whatever reason, maybe Smith & Wesson is the importer, marketing just wasn't that aggressive here. Market penetration wasn't that far. They didn't bring over huge numbers. They were a little bit hard to get. Yeah, they were well respected, and for those of us who owned them, well reviewed. But they just weren't making a splash. And I think that has to do with the U.S. importer and marketing. I really do. To be fair, though, Walther was also still focusing on the European market. And that wasn't always a bad decision because while today many people have a concealed carry license, in fact, some states allow for carry open or concealed without even a license, 2007, 2008 time period, these were not very common. Not all the states even allowed for a license. Very few unlicensed carries were allowed in America. It just wasn't a known quantity back then. Just folks did not apply for their carry license. Kind of reminds me of how suppressors weren't near as popular 20 years ago as they've become today either. It was too early, as I alluded to at the beginning of the video. You want to be first to market, but maybe not by 3 or 4 years. If this had come out in 2010, even 2009, it might have done better. Look at the Shield. It came out, 2012, 2013? And it was a splash. I remember they were back ordered and they were going for crazy money. I'd get them in. I'd even get like demo guns from Smith & Wesson. People would pay over retail price for them, used. Now, there was an actual recall because there was a problem noticed shortly after it was introduced. I really do like the German-style mag release. And that would have to do with this slide stop here. This is not my original PPS, which I did buy at the end of 2007. That actually got traded off to Fox a couple of years later. It had been my carry gun and defense gun, but he really liked it, so just let him have that one and picked up another one. There were reports of the slide stop on the early guns jamming up. It never happened to me, but Walther did have a voluntary recall where you could send your gun in and they would add a revised slide stop and spring. So just something to be aware of if you have a 2007, 2008 dated gun. In the US, these shipped in this case here, and regardless if you received it with 2 or 3 mags, you did have the cutouts for 2 extra mags here, and the extra strap, and of course manual and stuff up here. And the price point was pretty good for a German-made gun. These were around $600 back in the day. So these were always just a little bit more than a Glock, say a Glock like plus 10%, which was fine, I think, considering Walther's much smaller production numbers. The PPS disassembles, just as you'd expect, kind of standard for this day and time. You just have the Glock style double deal here where you just, it's a lot easier to do when you're not on camera, trust me. Ease that forward, of course, without an active decocker. It does have the nested recoil spring here. It is captive, of course. It's our barrel here. Obviously, these will work with hollow points. Machined slide. Striker system with safety in here. Again, absolutely nothing special, especially for any Glock P99 owner. Metal guide rails for the slide there. No magazine disconnect safety. Oh, there you go, guys. These were reliable, and they were accurate. The trigger is, again, fine for a carry gun. Aside from the back strap, there's really no major criticisms, and even that didn't really turn out to be an issue, although I completely understand and respect those who were concerned about it early on. It makes sense. And there were no major competitors on the market. Certainly not of a gun of this quality. Glock was years out from theirs. Why didn't it take off? What went wrong? PQ suppressed. Shit. The PPQ was introduced in 2011, and the P99 would kind of quietly keep on. In fact, they didn't do their final run of P99s until 2023. But then, at the end of 2012, Smith & Wesson's deal to import Walthers ended, and Walther USA started by 2013. And they really started marketing much more aggressively and innovating. And while their primary attention was on the PPQ, going from what we know today as the PPQ M1 to the M2, and they also introduced the Economy PPX, and then the CCP, again, which we reviewed relatively recently, they didn't forget about the PPS. M2 with the intermediate. Same case, but slightly different gun. In 2016, Walther released the PPS M2. Created to address some of the concerns with the original and to appeal more to the American market. This is a major step forward, released 9 years after our original here. Size-wise, it's the same. This has the flush fit 6-round mag. This is, of course, still a 9x19. 3.2-inch barrel, although they went from traditional lands and groove rifling to polygonal. And it's still that partially cocked trigger system. Although, I would say they slightly revamped it. Yeah. It's not lighter, but it is more consistent on the pull and smoother. Still around 6 pounds, maybe 5.5. But again, carry gun, you don't want a target trigger, but they did make it a easier, more consistent pull. And there's Miss Peanut. Yes, good girl. But the changes obviously didn't stop there. It's cat intermission. Say hi to the people. There's your cat tax. All right. Let's start with the slide. We have somewhat reworked sights. Now, to be fair, this is the so-called law enforcement edition. It has those kind of glow sights that you put a light on. Still metal, but they did revamp the sides. Notice it's smooth on the top now versus the ridge on the original. And we have rear and now front serrations. So instead of that taper in the front here, we actually have serrations. And still have a striker tail that protrudes in the back. Everything's just a little bit reworked. Moving down to the frame, one big difference is we no longer have a rail. It's a little interesting. As I said, the PPS was pretty unique for its day and time, for its size, having a rail. But it is a single slot rail, and a lot of stuff just wouldn't fit it back then. So when they released the M2 in 2016, they just got rid of it. They went to a curvy, snag-free design up here, kind of scalloping it. I guess they just didn't feel like it was necessary, and I get it. They also reworked the grip. One legitimate complaint about the original, even though the front and the rear have texturing and grooves, to keep it slim, this is just very vertical with just minor texture. With the M2, they kind of copied the PPQ's grooving, although a little less aggressive. So it is a much more comfortable grip. And of course, yeah, this is the 6-round mag, and you notice it has the M2 style Browning type mag release. All right, PPS M2 starting off with the 6er. This ammo's got some heat behind it, but not in a bad way. And of course, it came with the additional mags as well. Here is the +1. It also continues the texturing on there. I noticed with the M2, the 7-round and the 8 are not very dissimilar when it comes to the extension. You can reverse the mag catch with a tool. I still mess the German style, but you know, that's American market for you. Here's the +2. Keeps on with the grip. And now to round it out with the 8 and the M2. Texturing on the sides. And you notice the back. This did away with the quick safe system. And in fact, doesn't even have interchangeable back straps now. That's okay. For a carry gun, I think most everyone's going to want slim. And this is a good size grip. Fits my hand. Fits most folks, even with the little mag. In fact, I would say especially with the compact mag, having this patterning on the side and the revamped system is more ergonomic and comfortable than the original. Yeah, less sharp edge there. Naturally, the M2 comes apart just like on your original. Nothing special here. Internals are maybe slightly updated, nothing major. Still that nested spring. Barrel now with polygonal rifling. The crown's cut a little different. our internals. But it is perhaps a little smoother. Definitely more ergonomic. Aside from losing the European style mag release, which I prefer, but I get that's just kind of more me, I pretty much like everything about it. Also, something that we can all agree on, the price point actually came down with the M2. While the CCP still remained the more economy choice gun, it was a little larger. This was smaller, a little nicer made, and it dropped the price by roughly $100. The PPS M2 LE edition came with those kind of glowworm night sights. That's all I can think of are glowworms from the 80s. And it did come with all 3 sized mags. Interestingly, because it was the same case, there's still the cutout on the side for the extra backstrapping if it didn't have one. That's okay. You can use it for something else. And of course, paperwork on top. Anyway, I thought it was worth a retrospective look back at a gun that really was innovative when it was introduced in 2007. Not to mention well made, not to mention a gun that I carried and used quite a bit back in the day. And is still valid today, frankly. That's why I still have one of these. And then 9 years later, Walther showed that they were listening. And in most every way, I would say the M2 is definitely an update. And it's still in production and on offer on the website today. But in 2025, it's having to compete with a lot of other concealed carry guns, some of them with a larger capacity, nicer triggers if you're into that, maybe even smaller size. However, for a gun that was made coming up on 20 years ago, remember development began in 2003, it holds its own shockingly well. M2 with the 8. It's reliable, dependable, it's not ammo sensitive. Magazines are readily available. By the way, they're made by Metgar for Walther. Adjustable sights. Weight and everything all is good still. And I'm going to be honest, when it comes to capacity, for a defensive gun, 6+1 is normally enough. Frankly, it is. Certainly for like urban carry, that kind of deal. But if it's not, say you're out more in the mountains like I am here, you have a ranch or whatever, frankly, 8+1, especially if you carry a spare mag, for a carry defensive gun should be enough. If you need more than that, you're kind of moving into duty gun, service gun territory. And there's a time and a place for that too. But at that point, you're probably not really concerned with concealed carry, slim, and all that. And if you don't need that, if you want a home defense gun, there are better options than the PPS. And, well, you can even get some from Walther, the PPQ, the PDP, tons of Glocks, Berettas, Smith & Wessons, Springfields, all kinds. Now, this is made for a specific purpose, but what I always liked about the PPS, even from the beginning, it doesn't feel like it has too many compromises. You know, I think, of course my hand's getting tired, I actually find the M1 maybe slightly more comfortable with the flush fit, but then the M2 more comfortable with the full-size 8. But if you've never checked one out, they're still really cool, really valid. And for me and some others, Walther's grip styling really does work. Some other folks, not as much. But that's kind of carry guns for you, or even duty guns. It all depends on how the ergonomics fit you as an individual. And Walther's, ever since I originally had a P99 set in my hands around 1999, it just worked for me. That's why when they announced the slim version, I was all about it. I was really eager to see what this purported replacement for the PPK was. And in no way disappointed. Again, mine worked so well that Fox talked me into letting him buy the one off of me. And when the price reduced M2s came out, had to get my hands on one. And there's still the CCP, and there's the PPQ compact, there's the PDP compact. So Walther has carry options, which makes sense considering they're an innovator in the field. But let me know what you think. Hope you enjoyed this. Like I said, it's kind of raining today out, so it seemed like a good day to chill out on the couch and talk Walthers. Something that's not exactly difficult to get me to do. But yeah, please do comment and discuss below what you prefer. And if you like the video, please do click like. Not enough of you do, frankly, so please do that. And if you really like to help, go over to Patreon and check us out. But if not, that's cool too. No pressure. This is Misha, and on behalf of Fox and Peanut, we'll all catch you very soon next time.